Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, full card betting guide for UFC 329. McGregor taking on Holloway 2. If you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button, as you know what we're here to do. I've got to break down a 14-fight stacked card from a betting perspective, giving you my thoughts, my feelings, and my analysis on each matchup on this stacked card. And without further ado, let's dive right in to the early prelims. And kicking things off at UFC 329, we've got Alexandro Costa taking on Cody Durden. I'm on the Costa side here. I think he's a rightful favorite, and it makes sense why. Cody Durden, obviously on a full camp here, very good wrestler, but he is very hittable. And the problem with this matchup here against Costa does have a lot of power in the hands, but he rips to the body. He doesn't just headhunt. He does a good job of lighting up the legs. He's very measured. He has a very, very nice approach when it comes into fights where he's looking for his openings. And the problem with Durden is he does leave a lot of openings when he gets over aggressive, overzealous. And I think Costa can really capitalize here. I like Costa maybe second or third tier parlay this week, not top ticket just because of that short notice. Have to step up on a not necessarily on a full camp. I like the under 2.5 here. I think either way we're going to see a finish. Whether Durden is able to drown Costa and get a finish late, or Costa gets it done inside of rounds 1 or 2. Either way, I see Costa getting this one done inside the distance. That's how I'm really sort of feeling this one out. Costa by KO is plus 200. I think that's probably a most viable, most juicy bet on this particular fight. Durden is a guy that leaves himself open to be hit. He's viable to get damage to the body. And Costa has a lot of power in his hands. And even on short notice, he's not necessarily going to want to, kind of drag this one into deep waters. I think he's got power in the hands. He's got good guillotines as well. If Durden decides to shoot in for sloppy takedowns, I like Costa to get this one done inside the distance. I think the KO prop is very live this week. I'm going to say he gets this one done by KO inside of rounds 1 or 2. I don't see Durden being able to weather a storm here and kind of pulling this one out late. So I like Costa to get this one done inside the distance. I think that under 2.5 is also very reasonably priced as well. I think it should happen inside of rounds 1 or 2. I don't see Durden being able to pull off a late finish. So give me Costa inside the distance. I'm going to be playing that Costa money line in the second tier parlay along with Costa by knockout at plus 200 this week. And next up, we've got Zachary Reese taking on Ryan Gandra. I don't really like this fight a whole lot, I got to admit. I'm really sort of flip-flopping between the two. I understand if people like Reese take the plus money. I think that Gandra is a guy that, he hasn't really been tested at this point in his career. Zachary Reese, we know what we're going to get from him. He is the taller, rangier guy. He's fought the higher level competition. I actually like the over 1.5 here for the reason being that I think a lot of people see these guys as, very quick finishes. They get it done inside of round 1. I think Reese is durable enough to be able to get over a round and a half. And I think that Gandra, he's not this one-punch knockout artist. He gets very wild. He's very raw. And I think that Reese is going to be able to kind of stay safe early here against Gandra. Gandra's been to decisions. He's not this, crazy knockout guy like Damian Pinnis, for example. He is a guy that's going to come in and he's going to look to swing and trade with you, but he's not necessarily a one-hitter quitter guy. I think, personally, this one's going to go long. I think we could see the judges' scorecards, which would shock a lot of people. I think that Gandra, he does carry power, but he doesn't set up those shots how a lot of people would like him to. And I think Zachary Reese, even when he fought against Michel Pereira in his last fight, he was able to go the distance in that fight, take a lot of big shots from an explosive Michel Pereira. And I just don't see Gandra coming in here and flatlining him. So that over 1.5, I think, is very live at plus money. Probably my most favorite bet on this entire fight. And Gandra money line, I would lean to it. But if you like Reese, I don't blame you. Not going to be touching that one myself. But Gandra by decision here is plus 1,000. I think that's definitely got some value in it. I think a lot of people are going to look for this fight to go under. Both guys have been to decisions. Both guys are not this, these Terrence McKinney types where it's kill or be killed. They do go to decisions. It's just because a lot of the time they are getting finished, they are getting hit, that people do think that these fights are going to go under for a lot of these, or both of these guys. I actually think it's going to go longer. So that's the angle I would look to take on this fight. Me personally going to be staying away from the money lines, but ultimately I would say the over, maybe even getting to the judges' scorecards here might be the way you want to play this one. And next up, we've got John Garza here stepping in on short notice to take on Farid Basharat. I'm on Farid Basharat here, ultimately. I think he goes to the grappling here. Top ticket parlay. He's a big favorite for a reason. He'll get this one done. And I think the under 2.5 here is actually going to be surprisingly juicy here at almost even money. I think that the under 2.5 is viable because Basharat needs to get a finish. In his career, the one knock on him has been he's coming into these fights, he's not getting these big names because he's coming out and he's going to a lot of decisions. I think he's going to need to put, sort of boot to ass in this fight, come out and get a finish. And I think he's going to have that in mind. So the under 2.5 here at -105, I think is very viable. I think that Basharat by submission is probably how he looks to get this one done. Gaza is a guy that, he's a kickboxer. He has good boxing, but I think he's going to lack in the ground game against a guy as high level as Basharat. I think American Top Team's going to say, let's take the path of least resistance. Let's take this fight to the ground. Let's use our wrestling, and ultimately let's find a submission. That's how I see this one playing out. I think Basharat gets this one done inside the distance. He might even go club and sub. I think ultimately he's going to be the better grappler, and he's going to be able to get some sort of like head and arm choke. I'm going to say that, he kind of gets in the guard, passes guard, uses some ground and pound, and then ultimately is able to find the finish with the submission here, head and arm choke most likely. I think that under 2.5 is very viable, but I like Basharat here, top ticket this week to get this one done, especially with Gaza on short notice. And next up, we've got Damian Pinnis here taking on Cesar Almeida. I like Cesar Almeida as a fighter. I just think that Pinnis is a guy that has a lot of power. He carries a ton of power. And I do think that Almeida is going to have to fight a perfect 15 minutes in order to get this one done. And I just don't see that happening. I think the under 1.5 is very live, sitting at around even money, -105. If you just want to pick the under 1.5 and just root for violence, I don't blame you. Cesar Almeida, obviously former Glory kickboxer. He's very technical as well. He can catch Pinnis on the feet. The problem is he's not necessarily known for being this one-hitter quitter. Both guys haven't been around in MMA. He's not going to be able to exploit the wrestling. So it's going to come down to a back and forth, standing and trading affair. And Pinnis is a guy that has a 5.5-inch reach advantage, and he has the touch of death. So I think Pinnis here, sort of second or third tier parlay. I wouldn't go top ticket with him, but he is still very raw. But he carries a ton of power, and I do think that he is going to be able to find the mark against Almeida at some point. Pinnis inside of the distance, obviously, is how I'd look to play this one, most likely by knockout. But Pinnis round 1 KO is +2 of 40. I like that one. I think he's going to come out here early. He's going to be able to find that nice straight right hand. He keeps things very simple for good reason. And I think that he knows that, once he lands, he has trust in his power. He has trust in his hands. And I just don't think that Almeida's going to be able to kind of get the respect or get him worried about his striking. And that's going to cause Pinnis to be able to open up and really land some big shots. So I like Pinnis here. I wouldn't say, throw him in a ton of parlays, but if you want to throw an outside the curveball parlay or, third ticket parlay, I don't blame you. And I think he gets this one done inside the distance, most likely early KO. And next up, we've got Wang Kong here taking on Tracy Cortez. Fight goes the distance, feels very safe here for me. I think we're either going to see a wrestle-heavy game plan here from Cortez, or we're going to see, a lot of volume, a lot of bigger moments on the feet from Wang Kong, which ultimately lead to Tracy Cortez being beaten up and losing a unanimous decision. So I think fight goes the distance here is very live. I think Wang Kong is going to have the bigger moments, and I like her here at -105 to get this one done. The sport is based on damage, people. We got to remember that. So Cortez is going to have to take her down and control her and do damage. I don't think that Wang Kong is going to be that easy to take down and control, bearing in mind that even though she is only 10 professional fights, 9-1 record, she has been having to deal with people coming at her with the approach of the wrestling. They are looking to take her down because of her high level striking. So she knows that she needs to defend takedowns. So she's going to be heavily prepared for this matchup. Everyone's been trying to take her down. This matchup is no different. So I think Wang Kong here is going to defend the takedowns, keep this one standing. I like her at -105 as a straight up play here on the money line. And I think her by decision at almost 2-1 odds is a great price tag. Obviously, +190 here was what's on my sports book. Wang Kong by decision, I think that's the way to go. I just don't think Cortez is going to be able to hold her down and keep her down. I think she's going to be the better striker. I think Cortez is going to be out of her depth on the feet. She's going to get bloodied and battered and ultimately get her legs chewed up as well. And I just think that she's not going to get controlled on the ground. So give me Wang Kong here to get this one done. I feel confident in her to get it done. Women's MMA can be tricky, but when you're getting, 50-50, and I think it's a kind of a no-brainer that Cortez is going to look to come in and wrestle, I think it's really only going to play out one way for Wang Kong and her ability to keep the fight on the feet. And next up, we've got Luke Riley here taking on Kai Kamaka III. I am all over Luke Riley this week. I would say this is probably one of my most confident picks on this entire card. Yes, he's 13-0, sure, but Riley is the better boxer. He carries more power in the hands. Kai Kamaka, he's well-rounded, but he just doesn't have that pop to get the respect of Luke Riley. So I like Riley top ticket. I think this could be minus 400, and I'd probably like it if I'm being honest. He's tough. He's durable. Kai Kamaka can't come in here and wrestle and control him on the ground. Riley's going to be able to get back to his feet. I think Riley by decision at plus 100 is very viable, but Kai Kamaka has always been a guy that he's been reasonably durable at the course of his career, especially in the latter, in the latter stages of his career at this point. From sort of the 30 to 31 era, he's been able to have a lot of success not getting stopped. So I just worry in this one that Luke Riley's power might shine through and he might be able to get a stoppage. But Riley by decision at plus 100. I believe the knockout was plus 500. So I'm personally going to be taking the money line. I'm not necessarily sure if Riley will get that finish, but I think the over 1.5 feels relatively safe. But like I said, I'm really on the Riley side this week. I think he should get this one done. He is my most confident pick on this entire UFC 329 card. And I just think that he can get it done either by knockout or by decision in a lopsided decision where he has the bigger moments as the harder hitter. And Kai Kamaka is going to have more volume, sure, but he's going to, really be pillow hands in comparison to the way Luke Riley fights. And he's not going to have that wrestling to fall back on as well. So give me Luke Riley in this one. And next up, we've got Adrian Yanez here taking on Cody Garbrandt. I'm all over Yanez here. I just don't trust Garbrandt at this point in his career. He dances around on the outside, 35 years old, been knocked out 4 times in his 7 losses. And Yanez is looking good. He's very crisp, obviously completely got robbed in his last fight against Ricky Simone. And he's got good counters, and he's the better boxer in this matchup. And I just think realistically that Garbrandt's going to be dancing around on the outside, which isn't a good visual to the judges. And I could see Yanez maybe getting a knockout here. He does a good job of trading in the pocket, and when his opponent opens up, he counters very well. That's where he finds most of his knockouts. So I think fight ends inside the distance here at minus 170 is a viable play. I think Yanez money line as well, second or third tier parlay this week. He should get this one done. And I think Yanez by knockout speaks for itself. It's not even plus money, but minus 115, I think it's very viable. I don't see this one going to the judges' scorecards. I just don't see how Cody Garbrandt at 35 years old, especially from his previous fight, he's fighting a much more technical boxer in this fight than he did in his previous matchup. And I think Yanez is going to find that chin, simple as that. So give me Yanez by knockout, even if that is just about even money. And I think Yanez second or third tier parlay feels very safe this week as well. And next up, we've got Gabriel Stevenson here taking on, I believe it's Ellison. This is just an absolute, don't bet on this one, guys. Let's be honest. It's minus 3,300 for a reason. If you want to go for the under 1.5, I wouldn't even really touch this fight with a barge pole, if I'm being honest with you. This is completely a showcase bout here for Stevenson to come in and make a name and make a splash on a big Conor McGregor card. Ellison is a guy that, he's not even really a true heavyweight. He's probably going to be the smaller guy out the two. Stevenson's wrestling is going to get the better of him. He's going to take him down. He's going to beat him up on the ground with ground and pound, or he's going to be able to find the knockout with his improved striking. But the under 1.5 is just priced out of, where you want to be touching a 1.5 round line at minus 550. Stevenson, round 1 knockout is minus 225. If you want to play that, be my guest. But, what happens if he gets rocked and he has to resort to his wrestling and, it kind of goes a little bit south. You're looking at a minus 3,300 ticket there that's bringing you no value. So not a lot on this one. Probably talked about this one for a little bit longer than I was expecting to, but just don't touch this one. That's my advice. Next up, we've got Robert the Reaper Whittaker here taking on Nikita Krylov. I personally don't like this fight from a betting angle, but what I will say is it's got to be dog or pass from me. Nikita Krylov, obviously, a very dangerous fighter, very good wherever the fight goes. He's the bigger entity in terms of being a natural 205er. Robert Whittaker, there is a lot of question marks coming into this fight. He's obviously older at 35 years old, taking a ton of damage at middleweight. He is probably the more skilled fighter, the more patient fighter, probably the better wrestler, but how's he going to look at 205? That's my concern. He's not a particularly big guy. How is he going to be able to take the shots of the big 205ers? So because of the amount of kind of X's and O's and kind of question marks around this, step up in competition or step up in weight, I should say, from Robert Whittaker, it has me just questioning the angle here. I think if you want to take a shot on Nikita Krylov as a slight underdog, I don't blame you. He is probably the better natural finisher out of the two. He has good jiu-jitsu. He's got power in the hands, but where I think Nikita Krylov really lacks is his patience. At times, he is the guy that, kind of runs into the pocket wild and gets caught. Robert Whittaker can still crack, but he is very patient at times, almost to a fault at this point in his career. So the over 1.5, I think, is relatively safe. After that, it's kind of whichever angle you want to take. Me personally, Robert Whittaker by decision is plus 240. I think that's probably the way you want to play it. I think Robert Whittaker is going to win the decision with volume, with that step-in jab. He's going to mix in some grappling, some wrestling, and ultimately, he is the more skilled fighter. So I think he's going to mix a lot of things in. I think Krylov could have moments. He might hurt Robert on the feet, but I just think that he's going to have a kind of a lack of fight IQ in this matchup here against Robert Whittaker, which is going to allow Whittaker to be able to squeak out like a split decision or a decision here. That's how I see this one playing out. I'm not going to be touching it. Just my thoughts and feelings on this matchup. And next up, we've got Terrence McKinney taking on Bobby King Green. Under 1.5 is always live in a Terrence McKinney fight. It's always, thereabouts. And kind of like what I was saying about the Gabe Stevenson fight, minus 550 for an under 1.5. Terrence McKinney, minus 360 for an under 1.5 round line feels even safer to me. So if you're going to touch the Gabriel Stevenson fight, you may as well play this one because Terrence McKinney's kill or be killed. He's either knocking you out in the first round, getting tired, or losing in the second round or first round. So I do like the Terrence McKinney side. I think Bobby Green or King Green is too hittable. I think he's arrogant at times. He carries his hands low. And I think Terrence McKinney can exploit that, especially in round one. I like Terrence McKinney round one knockout here at almost 2-1 odds. I think he comes out like he always does. He's explosive. He's aggressive early. And I think he finds that knockout shot on Bobby Green. I just think that Bobby Green, the only way he's going to win this fight is if he's able to survive the first round by being defensively sound, defensively safe, which we know is not how Bobby Green fights. So until I see it from him, I can't rely on it. Give me Terrence McKinney, maybe third or fourth tier parlay outside of your sort of big money bets this week. Terrence McKinney at times, if you're going to take him inside the distance, take him under 1.5. He's going to look for blood early. Supposedly these two guys are actually friends, but McKinney wants the matchup anyway. So there's some bad beef between these two. So hopefully we get a good scrap here. But I think either way, it's going to be McKinney early or Bobby Green takes over after McKinney gets tired. But I'm going with McKinney here. I think the knockout's live, and I think that under 1.5 is a nice parlay piece as well. And next up, we've got Lona Kavanagh here taking on Brandon Royval. I'm on the Kavanagh side, but I do think this line's kind of got away from us a little bit. Royval, he's a very good grappler. He's big for the weight class, but I think Kavanagh is going to be too explosive for him, and I think he's going to be faster on the feet. I think as well he's shown that he can fight a full 5 rounds. So the way I'm playing this one is fight goes the distance. I think we're going to see Kavanagh make it to the judges' scorecards, have the bigger moments, trade in the pocket, and just land shots on Royval where Royval gets dropped. He tells him to get back up. He lands the bigger shots and he wins rounds by dropping Royval, but not able to actually finish the UFC veteran here. But Royval, he's known for being reasonably durable. Obviously, outside of a couple of sketchy performances where he did have that shoulder injury, he is reasonably durable. And I think that Kavanagh carries a ton of power, and he knows that he can fight a full 15 minutes now. I think that he's going to have the bigger moments on the feet. So fight goes the distance. Kavanagh money line, second or third tier parlay. I like that this week. And I think Kavanagh wins by decision. I think he's going to have the bigger moments that's going to woo the judges. And I just think that outside of Royval being able to kind of take his back and get him into a body triangle, I just don't see how he's going to have success in this matchup. He's going to get outstruck. At times he can get wild, which is going to leave openings for Kavanagh to counter. So give me Logan Kavanagh here. I like him to get it done second or third tier parlay this week. And I think by decision is most likely how I'm going to see this one playing out. And next up, we've got the rematch here of Mario Batista taking on Corey Sandhagen. I like Mario Batista here, dog or pass for me. I've not liked what I've seen from Corey Sandhagen. If you go back and watch their first fight, Mario Batista took this fight on short notice. He didn't even look anywhere remotely like himself of what we see now in the current UFC of Mario Batista. He's much bigger. He's much more physical. He can wrestle. He's got better cardio. His striking's improved. And I think if you look at Corey Sandhagen, he's gone the other way. He used to be super aggressive. He used to come out and look for submissions. He's constantly looking to finish fights. Now he's super technical and he's a lot more measured. And yes, he's big for the weight class at 5'11", but he seems like he's getting too bogged down with the X's and O's and not worrying about actually getting out there and fighting. So I think Mario Batista is going to be motivated. He's going to want to get back in the win column. He's going to want to get revenge after losing to Corey Sandhagen in his debut. And I think at plus money, it's dog or pass for me here. I think fight goes the distance is live. Batista inside the distance is not how I see this one. I think he's going to be measured. He's going to look to implement his grappling. He's going to look to do more damage than Corey Sandhagen, but I just think he's going to mix in the grappling and the striking to kind of keep Corey Sandhagen guessing, which ultimately leads to him winning a decision here at plus 185. I like him to get this one done as the slight underdog, and I do think outside of Paddy Pimblett here, he's the next best underdog on this card. And next up, that brings us to the co-main event. We've got Paddy the Baddy Pimblett here taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. And it's no secret, if you've seen it, Paddy the Baddy Pimblett is going to be this week's dog of the week. The line shows a lot here. A lot of people are seeing, I think, a lot of the things I'm seeing with this matchup. Paddy opened at plus 160, plus 170, now plus 110. Paddy should not be the underdog, in my opinion. 7-1 inside the UFC. That one lone loss coming to Justin, the highlight reel Gaethje, the current champion. There's no shame in losing to Justin Gaethje, who's now the current champ against Ilia Topuria. I think fight ends inside the distance here is very, very live. I think Paddy is going to come in here and get a finish. I think he's going to mix in the grappling. I think he's going to be able to get Benoit Saint-Denis to the ground, control him, beat him up with ground and pound, and go club and sub. Paddy inside the distance is plus 200, 2-1 odds for Paddy to get a finish here, and that's exactly how I see this one playing out. I think Benoit Saint-Denis is probably the cleaner striker, but I think Paddy can frustrate him on the feet. You saw that Paddy, even though he could get eye poked, he had a couple of foul incidents in that fight where Justin poked him in the eye. And he did get dropped, but he showed a lot of toughness. And I think Paddy's toughness is underrated. And I think Benoit Saint-Denis, instead of him, kind of showing off that he can fight a full 15 minutes, the one narrative around him is that he's all gas, no breaks. He comes into the fight, he's very aggressive early, and at times he'll get tired and then get caught. We saw that in the Dustin Poirier fight. We've shown in the past that he can get taken down and controlled in other fights as well. Against Renato Moicano, he got taken down, controlled, and beaten up in front of his home country. So I think Paddy's going to implement a very similar game plan here. He's going to be able to get the finish inside the distance. I'm going to say second round club and sub. Paddy to get back in the win column here as a dog of the week. I believe it's something like 5 of our last 7 for dog of the week, or 6 of our last 8 if this one hits with Paddy. But like I said, we've been on a run with dog of the week, and I think Paddy is a very viable underdog. I think he should get this one done in the co-main event as well. And that brings us to the main event here. And if you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button, as we've got Conor McGregor, the return of the Mac, taking on Max Blessed Holloway in the rematch. I have to go with Holloway, but I will say this fight is very tricky at 170. Max is not fought at 170. McGregor has fought at 170 3 times, once against Cowboy Cerrone, twice against Nate Diaz. I think here that the fact that there's a little bit of extra size on McGregor and Holloway might play into the hands of McGregor a little bit more than it does Holloway. I think the over 1.5 is very live. I think both guys are going to be durable enough to make this one go a little bit longer. I think Holloway is the right side. I think he can take over late in the 3rd and 4th, and 5th round. I think Max by decision is how I'd look to play it. I think McGregor is a guy that, even though Max carries power at a bigger weight class, he likes to stand and trade and box. Even in the Dustin Poirier fights, outside of a leg break and him getting his calf chewed up, he was doing relatively well in the boxing exchanges. And I think that as long as Max survives the first 2 rounds, he's not going to be able to kind of do anything with Max when it comes to the boxing long term. He can knock him out early with the power, but I think that both guys are going to have their moments on the feet with the boxing. They're both very skilled boxers. Max doesn't throw a ton of kicks. You don't have to worry about McGregor mixing in too much of a takedown threat. Even though we saw that in the first fight, I just don't think that McGregor at 170, coming off a 5-year layoff, is going to look to come in here and be Khabib and wrestle and grapple. I think he's going to stand and trade. And I think ultimately Max wins, either by late stoppage or by decision. I've got decision up here, plus 550 for Max Holloway to win by decision. That's how I'm seeing this card playing out. Let me know if you are tailing or fading this week. Let me know what you like, what parlays you like. We can discuss in the comments about different parlays. Hit that like and subscribe button and check out some of our other videos on the channel. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.